Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Zebra Talk, the podcast where we go beyond the stripes and shine a little light into the lives and the untold stories of the people who slide on their knees and count the threes. That's right, I'm talking about the referees. Today, I'm joined by somebody that I'm really excited to interview because I actually don't know him very well. I've heard about him a lot professionally. You've seen him all over Impact Wrestling over the last year or so, and I'm curious to find out a little bit more about him. Everybody, please welcome Daniel Spencer.
Hello, thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
Thank you for being here. It's really exciting to get to know you a little bit, spend some time with you, maybe let people in on like who you are and what you're all about.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a crazy, wild year for sure. A few years, of course, and we'll get to that. But a wild year just with the pandemic. It's like, I actually had this conversation literally with Johnny Bravo this weekend, and we were like, as crazy as 2020 is professionally, it's one of the best for both of us. It was one of the best years of our life. So,
Yeah.
but personally, it sucked, but professionally, it was great. So it was kind of like just weird, bittersweet dynamic, we
It's
had
been
in
pretty weird to
2020.
see how many people have that going on over 2020. Like
Hmm.
obviously the majority of us, we've been kind of chilling at home or like people have been working a few shows here or there or whatever. But like for those few who have like really taken the ball and run with it and like, risk their
Hmm.
health to an extent, but in the safest way
Right.
possible, it's been really, really worthwhile. We've seen a ton of people transition onto AEW. We've seen a ton of people debut on Impact as well. Obviously yourself.
Hmm.
Bayes had a killer year. Danny Limelight's had a killer year. Like it's
Right.
been insane for a lot of people. Tell me a little bit about what 2020 was like for you. At home as well as with Impact.
Well, so it started. What was weird about my shoot job, which I'm slowly living away from my shoot job being just a refereeing, but I was working at a company that I've been for many years in the sales aspect of it, very high pressure job. And things were changing, and I was like, "This is the beginning of the year," and I go, "Well, I kind of see a lot of." It's almost like I saw some good things happening in 2020 when it comes to refereeing and wrestling. I was like, I just want
Sure.
to have the opportunities to open up my availability where I can travel and do things. I just felt like there was things coming, and I had there was no like somebody was giving me the rub or the iggy saying, hey, this is coming up, so get ready. It was just
Sure.
kind
Yeah.
of. I just kind of had that weird sense, or however you want to call it, feeling. And so I decided to leave my company that I was working for and say I want to take another position. I was taking a pay cut, but it opened
Hmm.
up. Like I said, it's going to open up my flexibility. And then right literally when I accepted this job, and I was going to start like a month or so later, there was an opportunity to do some. I already knew about this. There was a combined shows happening with OVW, which is where I'm also stationed and the head referee there.
Sure.
So with Impact Wrestling, and so they were coming in for the weekend in Lexington, Kentucky, and Louisville, Kentucky, doing two shows. And so I said, well, I know I'm going to be a part and help out or whatever. So when I was there, it was a Twitch special and an Impact Plus special. And
Hmm.
I would get the opportunity to work those shows. And then, and I've already did stuff in the past for Impact. So I kind of knew their style and what they looked for in
Yeah.
referees as far as
It's definitely
TV and
very
whatnot.
unique to them.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's definitely unique compared to what WB wants, and probably, and I'm not sure what AEW would want. I haven't I've just seen on TV. I haven't been in the production side to see how they want the refs to handle things.
Sure.
But definitely trading into the Al Snow style is more WWE, but yet it to go to Impact it's not that much of a difference. It's just a few little adjustments, really. I mean, I know you've done some stuff with the Modi, so you understand
Sure.
it's a little different. Um, anyway, so doing those shows, it just was they were great. Everything worked out phenomenally as far as great crowds, great business. And about a week later, I get a call from Impact asking me, can I make it to Atlanta's tapings because they needed me to fill in. I would literally just go in there to fill in.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, absolutely, I can make it work. And because of my new job and opening, it just worked out that it was like I'm not starting this new job yet. I can go ahead and
I got a
leave
little
this
time.
position.
Let's
Yeah, I had a
use it while I got it.
exactly.
Yeah.
It was like, man, this is awesome. So I went straight there. Did that show. They had a great great time in Atlanta. Did the TNA special, the
Mhm.
throwback special. Worked
Which
the
was so
TV.
well received all over
Yeah.
the like internet wrestling community and obviously the television audience. Like I think as much as people may have had things to say about TNA over the years, I think that it was something that was very nostalgic for people and
Mhm.
very enjoyable to watch. So please
Yeah.
continue.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was great. It was, and I was like, wow, I just got the referee matches for TNA. I mean, I could say that even though it was Impact, but it was still that TNA special.
Sure, yeah.
And then did that, and then we that weekend that loop was great. Got to at that time Posey was still kind of with Impact, and I think he was with all three Impact, NWA, and doing some AEW,
It's
but
pretty
mostly on
wild,
the
right?
crew for AEW. Yeah. So got to talk with Posey and get a lot of feedback from him and a lot of advice, and of course
For the
Brendan
folks who are
told.
listening that may not be
Yeah.
familiar with who we're talking about, Mike Posey is one of the more decorated and experienced professional referees still working right now that people
Yes.
don't really know about. Well, I mean, obviously amongst the referee community and in the wrestling community, people know about him, but he's not one of those like buzzword names that like the fans throw around a lot, which I think is kind of unfortunate because like we did a the Q&A special on Zebra Talk at the beginning of
Hmm.
COVID and we had him on and he talked about all the different places that he's worked over the years and all the different
Right.
experiences he's had, and it's like literally everywhere.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
yeah, so tell me a little
Eh,
bit about working with Posey.
yeah. So it was really. I mean, he literally was just very. Well, first of all, so giving. I mean,
Sure.
it's unbelievable how giving and knowledgeable the guy is too.
Yeah.
He's definitely he made me, even though I kind of knew this, he made me understand that that ring is our office.
Yeah.
That's our cubicle, whatever you want to call it, and
Sure.
we need to take care of it just like you would in any other job. You're going to make sure the dust is wiped down. Everything is, the pictures are in the perfect position on your
Absolutely.
desk. You're not going to let anybody just come in there and do what they want to do.
Make a mess and then
And
just leave it that way. Yeah.
right. So that's kind of the way that I took from, or the knowledge that I took from him. Like, wow, you know what? We need to respect this. We need to protect this. And so he knew, when it comes to ring crew stuff, it was amazing. But just his, like his encouragement and his, like I said, given, there was no reason for him to like want to make sure that I'm the best that I can be out there.
Yeah.
He has no, I mean, he's Mike Posey, like
Yeah.
he's been everywhere, and but yet he still made sure gave me some advice here, and it was encouraging advice. It wasn't a, oh, that you suck doing that. No, it was more about, hey, how about we try this, or how about you do this, things like that. So big props to him for what he did. And yeah, so just that weekend itself, it was just pretty amazing. And so, everything looked good. I mean, I can tell that the management of Impact,
Happy with
they
your
were
work and
happy,
everything,
yeah,
I'm
happy
sure.
with
Yeah.
work, all that. So nothing crazy, but obviously there were shows planned for the few weeks, and I got the invite to come and help. I never got the invite to be booked or nothing like that. It was just like, come and
Sure.
help and be a
If you
part.
show up,
And
yeah.
show up, maybe use, maybe not, but regardless, there's things to do, and I would be. And one thing in Impact that, referees doesn't just referee, they do
Sure.
in the same way with really AEW, I think, in WB as well.
I think
Definitely WB, but
that could be said just about anywhere that like has, like an extended list of things to do other than just like
yeah,
showing up and doing the show. Obviously, there are certain indie
right,
places where, the ring is already there. You can just
right.
show up to the building and get dressed and go do your thing. But like any kind of place where you're like, filming a show, going to be on television, pay-per-view, anything like that, all over the
Hmm.
country, the referees wear dozens of hats. But go ahead and continue. Please tell me
Yeah,
about your
so I mean
experience.
yeah, so that's kind of what, I knew that there was things to do like that. So regardless, I would, be busting my tail and doing, and I'm happy to do it. Even just I was helping putting the canvas on. Hey, I was a part of that show. You know what I mean? That's
Sure.
the attitude I've always had, and that's really the attitude. If anybody's listening to become an aspiring referee, or a wrestler, you should have that
Yeah.
attitude. You're going to go far. Trust me, if you have that mindset.
I just
Um,
saw in like the Facebook memories or whatever, a year ago today, I was on one of the first Evolve shows that I got to take place on, and I had shared the fact that Rhea Ripley, who was the NXT Women's Champion at the time, was not working on the show. She was just there to like watch and like be there with somebody who was trying out. And she helped us like set up and tear down chairs. She's the NXT Women's Champion, and she's helping us set up and tear down chairs. Like, you know,
Exactly.
a lot of people think once they get to a certain point in training or something like that, it's like, oh, well, I don't really have to do ring crew or setup or clean up or whatever anymore because, you know, I'm past that. And it's like, you're never past that. We're all just a family trying to put a show on together.
Well, 2 weeks before he got the phone call to go back with the WWE and surprise everybody in the Royal Rumble, Jeff Jarrett, same thing. I got to work a GFW show.
Yeah, you were telling me
Um,
about that. I saw that in the
yeah,
comments. Please continue.
so yeah, he popped. He basically, it was a show tied with Crimson's TNT um, shows. They were doing shows together, and it was actually in Kentucky, not too far from Louisville. But we had some OVW people on there. But I got to do a show, and actually Stefan, who's now an NXT referee, was on that show
Yeah,
refereeing as well. But what I was going to say is that, to your point, Jeff Jarrett was there helping him, and Karen, his wife, were
yeah.
helping take chairs, set up chairs, tear down chairs, putting things away,
It's
in this
wild.
gym. And it's like his show,
Yeah,
and he had tons of people to help work,
yeah.
but yet Jeff was on board doing it all. I remember I had to literally go to him and go, oh no, I got that, and take it from him, because I just felt like there's no way you should be doing that.
Sure.
Let me do it.
But
But
there's something
he still,
about that work ethic, you know, that just like never really
yeah.
dies. Yeah, absolutely.
No, and of course, what did he do? He gave me that, turned around and grabbed something else and
Yep,
did something else. So that,
I'm
because
sure
that's
he
the way Jeff is.
did.
So that was so cool to see that, and it was humbling. It lets you know that no matter what, you're always, and I think he remembers it. I'm always, one time was not where I was. I was somebody trying to make it. And so I need to always have that mindset. And,
Absolutely.
and believe it or not, I think the people, you can tell the difference between the superstars and the ones that have a longer career than the
Yeah.
ones that don't, that do. And we're not going to sit here and name names, but I'm just saying,
Well, there's
you can
people that are going to
tell,
flare up and they're going to make a lot of money and they're going to be really famous. But then there's going to be people like Jeff Jarrett, who also, you know, was very famous and very successful in his time, but like will have a lifelong career. Not just
right.
like, you know, I wrestled for 20 or 30 years. He's been in the business, obviously, since he was born. His dad was a promoter. His whole family is involved in, you know, the business. He'll be involved in
Mhm.
wrestling until he dies. He understands
Right.
the, you know, importance of hard work.
And really, I mean, that's, and as much as we, some fans can't stand or say anything about them or whatever you want to say, because of just, it's mostly when you look at the aspect of their writing or booking, but whatever. But which it is what it is. But the McMahons have that same mindset. You know what I
Sure.
mean? That's why no matter what, Shane and Stephanie grew up from money, let alone, fame, and they're still hardworking. They're
You know what?
still the ones that would probably do the same thing with the chairs and the whole 9 yards, because that's the mindset they grew up, that you don't stop working. We all know Vince don't stop working.
Funny
So
story
it's,
about Shane that like I've never actually shared publicly, but just to coin in what you're saying, like
yeah,
I have been fortunate enough to do extra work a few times, and
right,
for the most part, like the superstars and the people that are working, they're there to work. They're not really there to socialize and get to know everybody that's in the building, which is fine. They're not like extremely standoffish or anything. They'll, you know, talk to you if they have a reason to. But for the most part, they don't really like come up to you and make a point of like getting to know who you are, which is fine.
right.
They see, you know, 40 extras a night in every city that they go to. However, Shane McMahon walked up to every single extra, shook
He
every
did.
single
He
extra's
does.
hand, and introduced himself by name, which,
Yep.
like, it's always kind of stood out to me when somebody who you know their name, like you've known their name their whole life, offers you their name when they first meet you. He knows we know who he is, but still, you know, it's the thing about politeness. But anyway,
Yep.
we're going on a
No.
bunch of tangents. Let's get you back to the
Yeah.
impact process.
Real quick, that is true. Like, he
Sure,
did the
yeah, yeah,
same to
go
me
ahead.
when I've been an extra. He walked up, "Hey, Shane McMahon, how you doing?" And then, yep, exactly. And then they asked, "What's your name?" "Okay, great, awesome." And then we was on to the next one. Yep. And
People's
then
reputations, you know, they
yep,
precede them.
yep, absolutely. But yeah, so that everything looks fine. I was like, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna show up at the next town, or the next two towns. Actually, I got the invite to show up and just be there, and I was gonna bust my tail and do whatever needs to be done. If I get on the show, great. If I don't, hey, whatever. I'm
It
part of the crew.
happens.
I'm
Yeah,
helping out. And then the pandemic happened literally the following week. So
sure.
after the tapings, Come to find out, our president at the time was actually in Atlanta when we were there
Hmm.
meeting with the CDC. So it all kind of was like just going lining up for everything.
Sure.
Um, but the pandemic happened, and so everything got kind of shut down. I think Impact at the time still didn't cancel anything yet, or still wasn't sure what they
Hmm.
were doing as far as that, because everyone was unsure. And these were shows that were scheduled for the end of March and April. Well, the first March show was canceled, and then the pay-per-view which was Rebellion in April, looked like it might have been canceled, but they don't know. Then of course they officially announced it was canceled.
Right. Like
And then it
everything
was
else going on at
everything
that
else.
time.
The TNA special on WrestleMania weekend was canceled, so it was like everything was just lining up, and I was like, all right, and so basically I got Johnny Bravo messaged me and said, hey, just to let you know, when we start back up, don't know when it's going to be. Impact had the ability and was lucky enough to have TV filmed all the way up until middle April, anyways,
Sure.
because of the way they do their tapings. So there wasn't any like we need to get back on TV this following week like WB may
Right.
have had or AEW. It
Sure.
was a different attitude there, different way. So they had some time to figure things out. And then I get a
A
phone
lot of
call.
people sing the praises of live TV, but like obviously there's something to be said about having pre-tape, that is
Exactly,
in one of these
exactly.
kind of like dire emergency situations. It's pretty good. The same situation happened with Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. Obviously, we eventually
Right.
ran out of pre-tape, but yeah, it was nice that there wasn't really a scramble the first like month or so to like try and figure out like what are we gonna do.
And
But
a little bit with OVW too, because I was also, I'm still there. I'm still there, but I was obviously there at the time, and then we were taped a little. We had a couple weeks, and so we could kind of, figure that out too as well.
sure.
But yeah, so then it was, I can't remember the exact timeline, like the exact day or whatever. I just remember getting a phone call, and saying, hey, can you come to Nashville?
Yeah.
We're going to be doing a closed set. And at the time, WB did do empty arena, and
Mhm.
so they said, just like they've done, we're going to do an empty arena type closed set
Right.
tapings. Can you be there? And I said, yeah.
Of
Well, it gave me the
course.
dates, and I was like, of course I can be there. And it actually just lined up that I already was not scheduled to work at the new job
Yeah.
till the week after that anyway. So it all was perfectly lined up. And I said, yeah, absolutely, I could be there. Okay, great. Well, I'll send you all the info. And everything was sent to me, and I show up and didn't know what to expect, didn't know what was going on. Next thing I know, it was just going to be me and Brandon Toll. Had no idea if Posey was going to be there. But this first loop was weird because a lot of people wasn't be there because of they were unsure of COVID and traveling.
Sure. Yeah.
So basically it was,
Orders are
I mean, it's got,
closed and things,
yeah.
obviously. Yeah.
And it was kind of like I was told, I was like, hey, if you don't want to be there, don't want to put yourself at risk, there's no heat from us, everything's fine,
Yeah.
it's okay. And so and here's the other thing, my fiance is diabetic, so I really had to like think about it and figure this out
Yeah, it's like you're
because,
risking your life and the lives of the people that are around you. So it's like
right.
if you don't want to do this, you don't have to. But like if you want to do it, there are ways that we can do it to the best of our ability as safely as possible.
Right. And I had to think, I had to really think it out and like think about it. Okay, it because it was going to be, at the time, we really, of course, we know a little bit more about it now than we did then. But
Sure.
do I quarantine before I go? Do I quarantine after I go, or do I do both? Do I just take a chance? What do I need to do? So I had to figure that out in the personal side of things, and then make that decision, which it was pretty quick decision to make because we only had a couple days
Yeah.
to do this. So excuse me, sorry, little frog in my throat. It's not COVID. I've been tested.
I wasn't gonna say anything, but it's pretty funny that it comes up right as we're talking about
Right as
COVID.
talking about COVID. I should grab a cough drop. But anyways, so yeah, so we're like, so basically I get there, it's just me and Toll. We do these, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, the first time was 3 days of tapings. We did 7 weeks of TV, and it was like, it was crazy amount of TV we did and shooting all day. It was a definitely a unique experience, and it was the first time, which now I'm so used to it, it's weird to say, but it was the first time that I had like no crowd to referee. Now,
Sure.
well, I mean, other than like training or things like that.
First time you've ever had no crowd on by, or I guess on purpose. Yeah, I was gonna
Purpose,
say by
yeah.
on accident.
So it was like, well, this is weird, and And so, and that was in the first match. I remember, not going to say who was in it, any of that, but we all were like, this is weird, and we
Yeah,
stopped in the
deer
middle
in
of
a
the
headlight
match
almost, just like, what is
because
going on?
we stopped in the middle of the match. We're like, everybody was like so confused on what was going on, and we're like, look, this is there's quite a few people in the match, and we're like, why don't we just start it all over? Let's just we got all the jitters out. Let's just go back. And then
Sure.
it was perfect. I mean, I lost my shoe in the middle of the match, and
How'd
so
you lose a shoe in a
I
match?
don't know. It just popped out when I turned. I don't know what, I can't remember how it happened.
That's
And so
fantastic.
I remember somebody said, well, you gotta, because we go to retape, there was like a break spot. We do a
There's like
break and then
continuity errors with your shoe.
yeah. So then it was like, why don't, that's why when they said, let's just restart it all over, because we were going to take it up from the break moment. And then I was like, oh, I got to keep my shoe off, don't I? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, I guess like in the break, I could have ran out and got my shoe and put it back on. No, but whatever. So I was like, what?
Yeah, you left the match during the commercial break to go get your shoe and stopped reffing the match.
We were just making jokes like that. But after we end up filming the whole thing over, look, you know what? Let's
Sure.
just scrap it. Let's get everything out of the way. Let's start over. And actually, I'll tell you one person in the match. It was TJP, and TJP says to this day, he goes, "I still remember you losing your shoe in that match." He's like,
Yeah.
"I just always," he goes, "You know, it never aired." He's like, "I just think about it was funny. You just continued reffing with your shoe off, and like he did it as a compliment, like a true pro. You just kept
Sure.
going." I was like, "Well, yeah." I was like, "Who know? We know we had 12 minutes left in the match, but." We kept going, but like I said, we reshot that, and you never saw it.
You may not know
at that
this,
point.
but you and I actually belong to a very select fraternity of referees that have reffed shoeless before. There were
Okay.
two yoga characters in Championship Wrestling from Hollywood once upon a time that wrestled shoeless, and when they finally faced each other, they kind of like looked over at me and they're like, "Take them off," and they made me ref shoeless on national TV. So yeah,
The funny thing is, I've done a lot of things in the ring shoeless or before, and I've refereed shoeless in training or practice, but never, as
on a
you know,
show,
that
yeah.
on a show. So, but anyways, it's always funny when I see TJ, he'll bring it up sometimes,
Sure.
but for the most part, it was one of those that was just, hey, this is we it turned out to be great that we reshot it. We got jitters out of the way, and then we were on and going from that point on. We end up filming Rebellion as a 2-part special instead of a live pay-per-view because we're still trying to figure out what's going on. I think it actually came across very well. And what was weird, and the things about it is that there was things I was still learning. I mean, of course, I've been, which I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about that. I've been refereeing for TV side through OVW for at this point a year and a half, so I kind of understood TV and understood that, but it's still a lot. It's a different ball game when you're dealing with OVW, which I don't want to say independent, but it is still considered a lower independent,
Sure.
lower, lower when it comes to like WB, ROH, Impact, things like
Not a
that.
lower independent, but it's not on the like international, worldwide known like
No, right.
television tier. Let's
It's
call it.
still it's still to this day people go, OVW, are they still around? Because John Cena, Brock Lesnar, all these guys came from there, but they
Oh
don't
yeah, I
think
mean
it's
we all
still
know about
around.
OVW. Like
Yeah.
you throw mention that, and people are just like they sit up a little straighter, like oh really?
Yeah.
I
Oh,
hear
really?
that's
Right.
how you go to WWE.
That used to be the place where you would, if you go to OVW, chances are you would have a chance to go to WWE,
Right.
or the right word is opportunity to go there. But
Got to reach for
but
that brass ring, brother.
absolutely.
So
But
Rebellion happens. You guys are
yeah,
filming that. Tell us a little bit about that.
so we film that. We do Rebellion. Everything goes great. Of course, at this time we had things got changed because of at the time Tessa was a world champion. She wasn't going to be there, so they
Sure.
kind of had work some things out as far as what they've advertised and what they've done. I think, like I said, it came out with the hitch. It looked pretty good as far as what they did. I think it's like, okay, now we know we've got this out for 7 weeks. Next set of tapings will go on. One of the things I know I was going to say is, as I'm doing this, I remember there was a match that happened, and Tommy Dreamer pulled me aside and said, "Hey," he pulled me in, actually told us that, and said, "Hey, I want to do something real quick." He picks up the phone and he dials Jimmy Cordeas, and
Sure.
He's put Jimmy Cordelis on the speaker. And he goes, "Hey, I got the Impact referees here. We're doing things a little different." There was a couple of things that he, and when it comes to TV, that apparently the director
Just
didn't like us
for a
doing.
quick moment,
Yeah.
like let's just address how awesome it is that like Tommy Dreamer values Jimmy Corderis's word enough, as he should, to actually call
Yeah.
him up, like what's the right answer to this? Because like we as referees, obviously, we hold him in very high esteem. He's one of the,
Yeah.
like premier people as far as like imparting knowledge onto the referee community. But for someone, and it's no surprise, like obviously Tommy exudes that kind of professionalism and like
Hmm.
respect for like what it is that we do. But for anyone to really just like value that input so highly, to just stop and call the person to get the right answer, is like amazing to me. But please
Yeah,
continue.
it is. And the fact that he did that, and Tommy cared enough about not only us, but the product,
Mhm.
everything, to be able to say, let's call Jimmy and let's talk, let's have Jimmy talk to us. And it wasn't a we did anything wrong. It was just literally like, hey, a
Let's
couple
all figure out
times,
what the right answer is.
right? A couple
Yeah,
times the director said this or that. Let's Jimmy, let's talk. And Jimmy talked to us and explained certain situations when it comes to TV compared to referee. We, like I said, refereeing we did great, but TV they wanted a certain thing,
sure.
and we wanted to understand it right. And Jimmy explained, like, it was like, okay, great, yeah. And then you start picturing like matches and things in the past in your head, and you're like, oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
why.
right. All
Okay,
those
it all
moments
starts
where
to
like you
click.
wish you had known that at the time, and it would have like really
Yeah,
made things work that much better at the time. I
but
totally get what you mean.
but Jimmy was great for that, however long that phone call was, 10 minutes or so. And I know I took it to bad, and I know Soul did too, took it and started using it, for what he said. And we that was just, and but again, that's just one of those things where I'm always look back going, man, Tommy really took the time to call Jimmy, get us on
Yeah.
the phone. And of course I already had conversations and knew Jimmy, and took advice from him, but it was like, wow. So then it kind of opened up the door even more just to reach out and ask him for other stuff in the future. But pretty cool. And so I thought, well, that's it. Okay, COVID. We don't know what's going to happen if we do another set of tapings. I get another phone call about a week after those tapings, and basically said, "Hey, we're doing it again. These are the dates. Can you be there?" I said, "Absolutely." That happened to be on my fiance's birthday. So
There you
then I
go.
had to, not only did I have to like leave her during the beginning of the pandemic and really quarantine and not see her because of her being diabetic, but
Also,
also,
sorry, honey, no birthday for you.
right. So now I'm not going to be here on your birthday when we had plans.
Sure.
So and but at least this time I had a good enough advance
I
notice
got a
to
job.
be there.
Sorry, babe.
So she was very forgiving, and said, and she's one of those, she knows my dreams, she knows my passion. She's not a absolutely go, she's pushing me out the door, then pulling me
Very
back. So
cool.
that's what's great about her.
Good.
Yeah, I went there, did another set of tapings. In the next thing, in the next up, we taped all the way. I think we taped all the way to Slim Anniversary,
Mhm.
and we found out that loop to Slim Anniversary was going to be a live pay per view, and
Sure.
then we were going to film TV afterwards. I did not know if I was going to be there for Slim Anniversary or any of that. I didn't know what the status was at that time. All I knew was I was willing and ready. Just let me know. It took about a month after those tapings, which were still over a month away from Slammiversary. I actually get the official booking email and call that I'm on the show, and I was like, "Oh
Look
wow,
at
this is
you.
great."
You're hired. You
Yeah,
did it, right?
right. So it's like, now I'm.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So now I'm working my first pay per view. Okay, and now I'm still not, I'm in. I'm still that whole like, maybe this is just temporary still, but hey, let's just keep it going.
Sure.
And So we get there. I hear all about what's happening with Slammiversary, because if anybody knows has been following, Impact, that's kind of the day that kind of changed everything, because right,
Sure.
that was the date. The day before that was the final date where the contract of all the people released from WWE
Right. Yeah.
for
And
during
then
that time
literally
was
the
going to
next
be.
day was like the doors were open.
Yeah, so it was like, who's going where, who's going to AEW, who's going to Impact, who are we going
Yeah.
to be, the teases, and then I kind of, like I said, started hearing about who's going to be
All the
there and who's
vignettes
showing
that they were
up. And
showing on Impact and everything. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right, right. So
Totally.
it was like, this is pretty cool. Like, okay, all right, this is awesome. Um, Do Slammiversary is an amazing pay-per-view. Really, the buzz that was there was awesome. The TVs after that were awesome. And then next thing I know, it's just okay. Here's the next step, and for the most part, it just turned into I'm pretty much I got a spot here at
Yeah.
Impact, right? And at least, and it was at least while we're in Nashville, and I was like, hey, I'm okay with that, at this point. So, um, and then Bound for Glory, do that, and that was just another amazing pay per view, and Deanna Prazo hits pretty hard. Get out of her way. No, no, no. It was, but yeah, it was great. And then we do more tapings after that, leading up to Hard to Kill, and
And
then
now
we
here we
just did,
are.
yeah, and we just did. And here's the other cool thing is now we've brought back Brian Hebner,
Yeah.
and now I'm not only I not only get to work with him, but now I'm learning from him, from one of the
Yeah,
best.
absolutely.
I mean, one of the best ever. So, the sky's the limit for what's the future for Impact, and I'm excited for it for sure. And it's just been like I said, it's been a crazy year, and what a year it's been. And that's and except professionally, I have to say it's been one of the best years of my life. So
I can definitely see that. Thank you so much for that, like, very detailed account of your experience. We've kind of gone out of the order of what I usually do. Usually I
yeah,
do
yeah, of
like
course.
things linearly. So like now that we've heard everything about what's going on right now, let's go right on back to the very beginning of your life.
Yeah, yeah. Well, my
uh,
well, my favorite movie is Back to the Future. So that's the thing. We go
It
back.
makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
and
should
then we
travel
go
back and
back.
then we'll
Yeah, yeah,
circle back around to here.
yeah,
This is like,
yeah,
Pulp Fiction. We just saw the
yeah.
ending of the
Right.
movie before we got the
There
intro to
you
the
go.
movie.
That works too. Yeah, yeah.
So we've heard about how you got your job. Why don't we hear a little bit about how you got involved in wrestling in the first place? Go ahead and start us
Yeah.
off with like where you're from, what your early childhood experiences with wrestling was like, and when you actually decided that you wanted to go train.
So I'm in Louisville, Kentucky. That's where I was born and raised. So we talked about it earlier. OVW is where that's well, of course, wrestling when it comes to Louisville, Kentucky, wrestling is pretty big here from the back
Sure.
in the Memphis territory days. This was one of the loops they hit. They would hit. If I'm not mistaken, it would be Memphis on Monday,
Yeah.
Louisville on Tuesday, Evansville on Wednesday, and then yeah, I think I may even start it
Yeah,
with
that loop is kind of just like synonymous with old like
yeah,
Midwest Southern style wrestling. Like, yeah, we've
right.
heard about it forever.
So
Go ahead.
so growing up, wrestling's always been a thing here. The Louisville Gardens is very. It always had shows on Tuesday night. So when I was younger, I could go to some of those shows and see Jerry Lawler, Jeff Jarrett, his dad Jerry Jarrett, guys like that. And then
Do
the
you have like a
USWA.
do you have like a first experience with wrestling, or has it just literally been your entire life? Like, did you just grow up watching it since as long as you can remember?
I have moments that are my first that I can remember, but there's things that I remember. They're fuzzy, so I
If you
can't
had to
like.
guess like what age you started, were your
Uh,
parents taking you like when you were born? Which is
no,
pretty
no, no. It
cool, like
wasn't
if
that.
that's the case. Like
It wasn't because my dad actually hated that fake stuff. He would say, then later, but then
mine too.
later end up loving it. So it's so weird that he ends up liking it, but which is and that kind of was my mentality when I first watched it too. I was like, yeah, it's fake. Then I would go, but then I would be drawn into it, like sucked in because I
But
love
wait, this
entertainment.
is really cool.
Right,
I
right,
like
right.
it.
So it was it was just it's kind of weird, but I really can't other than like watching WBF Saturday night and Saturday night's main event or whatever, and then
Sure.
just watching TBS and it just
You're
I
dating
really don't.
yourself a little bit here. I actually don't know
Yeah,
how old you are. I'm gonna say you're probably in like your mid to late 30s.
mid 30s. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So
Saturday night's main event is usually right around that age group because I'm like in my like beginning of my 30s and I'm an attitude era like into the
right.
like what do we call it? Ruthless aggression era. But please
So
go
so
ahead,
like
continue.
I really started getting hardcore into it in 96, but
Sure.
it's like I said, it's very fuzzy because I would go to shows younger in the early 90s, but but I would go with like um not my mom and dad wouldn't go, but I would go with people that were family friends, so to speak, and they
I
would,
just find strangers on the side of the road. Hey, can you take me to the wrestling
yeah, can you
show?
tell me I want to go to wrestling? Or hey
But
kid,
anyway.
going to wrestling with you. Here's some candy. Yeah, no. But yeah, so I kind of, like I said, it's fuzzy as far as like what my first show was, but I remember vividly seeing these certain things, and of course, whatever would happen at the Louisville Gardens or in
Mhm,
the area on Tuesday would also air here on Saturday mornings.
sure.
So like you would have that, you know, or it was like a studio, a little bit of a studio, and then would air, and they would promote the big show on
You
Tuesday.
got
But
to see it
anyways,
live, and then you get to see it also, on TV on
yeah.
the
So it was
weekends and
kind of a
stuff. So it
little
was
bit,
like
yeah,
over, like double saturation way before, now when we have like wrestling every day of the week.
right, exactly. So, but it was, but I remember like I remember '96 turning on, and watching WWF, and then flipping over and watching WCW, and I was really starting to become like really paying attention more, becoming a fan, like following it weekly, not just turning it on every so often and liking or going to a show. Like I really started paying attention, watching it, and it was right at the NWO start, right when that was going on, and they would get
Sure.
me sucked in. I was like, Hogan's here. Hogan used to be, and I really, like there was this time I remember like the early '90s when I knew Hogan was WWF and Macho Man and all that. And there was like a little couple year span where I didn't watch wrestling at all. I liked it, but I just didn't watch it. Didn't go to
Just
shows,
weren't really
whatever.
aware of like where Hogan was or what he was doing or
Didn't
whatever.
know any of that. So
Yeah.
when I saw him on WCW, I was like,
You're
wait a
like,
minute.
wait, what happened? What did I miss?
And at this time, he was already Hollywood, so it was right
Yeah.
after the Batch of the Beach, and I was like, "Wait a minute,
He's
he's
a bad guy.
he's
He's
a
wearing
bad
black and
guy,
white.
yeah,
What is going
ex-
on?
exactly." But I liked it. I was like, "But I
Sure.
like this. This is great,"
Yeah.
And I recognized Hall and Nash because of the days of Diesel and
Diesel
Razor
and
Ramon.
Razor, yeah.
I was like, "This is just wait a minute." So then I started, "What's going on in WBF?" So then I had to turn on there to see what's happening with there. Okay, well, I recognize Shawn Michaels, I recognize the Undertaker, and but wait a minute, I recognize Bret Hart. Okay, who's this guy? Who's this Hunter Hearst Helmsley? Who's this,
True.
Mankind? Who's this? So I
So you
started
like
like,
launch yourself back into the world and you're
yeah,
immersing yourself in it and just kind of like absorbing everything that you can. At what
exactly, and
point did
going
you
back and
like
forth.
realize that you wanted to become involved with wrestling?
Right away, because I was like, this is something I want to do. This is cool.
Sure.
But at the
Did you
same time,
want
I
to be a
also wanted,
wrestler? Did you ever train to be a wrestler?
I did, yeah. Later on, when I graduated high school, because in the state of Kentucky, you got to be 18. So I did train a
Sure.
little bit, took some basic stuff, bumps, wrist locks, things like that. But never like I didn't have the money to. Well, I guess we all didn't have the money, right? Didn't
Get
have the
like
money
gear
to
and things
like,
like that.
yeah, gear, go to actual school, like pay for a full year of school. It was just kind of like it was a place in Bowling Green, Kentucky that allowed me to like do kind of kind of simple things.
They let you come
And
in and just kind of like train with them, but like not
yeah,
like go through like the full student experience.
exactly. And
Gotcha.
so it was enough to where I was like, I like it. It hurts. I like it. I can do this. But I also knew that at the time, my size, there was no way I could be a wrestler. At that point, I realized it, and I think that that might have pulled me back a little bit because I had friends. Growing up in Louisville, it's kind of skipped over this a little bit, but growing up in Louisville, OVW was huge. I found out about OVW. I found out that
Yeah.
USWA is gone, but now we got OVW, and I was like, wait a minute. Now that at the time they were over in Jeffersonville, Indiana, I was like, okay, let's go over to Jeffersonville, which is right over the bridge. If you've ever been in this area, it's literally like a hop, skip, and a jump. So
Mhm.
I went over there to see shows, and they were taping on at that time they would do Tuesday nights there, and Tuesday night wrestling with there, and that show they would tape and they would air on Saturdays on the local channel here. And I was like, oh great, this is awesome. Started going. They would do shows in the Louisville Gardens once a month. Started going those shows. Then they started bringing in Jerry Lawler, the Headbangers. All these. I'm like, Brian,
Big names,
too
people you've
sexy.
seen
Brian
all
Christopher.
over TV. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess they were too cool at the time, right?
Yeah.
Brian Christopher and Scotty Too Hottie. They
Yeah.
bring those guys in, and all these different people would come in once a month. Some WBE person would come in. I was like, wait a minute, this is what's going on here. Then magically, Jim Cornette shows up, and he's now part of the commentary team. I'm like, this is. Of course, we know now they became developmental and they worked out the
Right.
deal and all that stuff. But at the time, local, I mean, they
Before
had
you know how to read the writing on the wall and read between the lines,
right,
it's kind of that like, what is everybody doing here? How did they get all these people?
right,
Now that you're a little
exactly.
bit more like experienced and stuff, you'd probably be sitting there like, Oh, okay. I know. I see what's going on.
Right, right. So they start bringing these guys in, start going to these shows, started and then started seeing these guys, the headbangers work with guys like Rob Conway and Nick Dinsmore, who by the way was one of the best tag teams ever.
Sure.
You all know them separately in different ways, but as a tag team, they were killer. And you're like, okay, this is getting good, this is getting awesome. Um, and then it became known that they were the developmental and guys were coming in, and you started seeing this guy named Prototype doing this gimmick, and
Sure.
you
You're
started
still not a
seeing.
referee at this point, right? Just
No,
trying
no,
to
I'm
put
still I'm still yeah, I'm still just a fan.
okay.
Um
We got to get
and,
you refereeing at some point.
yeah, I'm gonna jump to it. So, but because of that, because the more and more, actually, let's do that. So, because more and more, I started having relationships with these wrestlers and people involved because it's um it's a small community. They were nice to the fans. Heels were heels, but babies were babies, and you would start interacting. And I started interacting with actually a guy by the name of Kenny Bolin,
Mhm.
who ends up being synonymous with John Cena and all these guys as far as
Right.
managing. And we would build a relationship, and I would talk to him, and I would go do stuff for him, help. Maybe he was carnying me up and making me do work for him. I don't know, but anyways, I
Well,
was
like
doing
that's how a
things.
lot of people get the opportunity sometimes,
Yeah,
when you're the go-to guy, you're the go-to guy. And if you get an opportunity to become a referee through that and you succeed and you're, work hard and are diligent about that, there's no reason that that can't be your in, but please keep going.
at the time I just wanted to get in the business. I wanted to
Yeah.
help write books, do whatever. I still didn't even think about refereeing. I don't know why I did at the time. But through that one of my closest friends who ended up being super nice later after he won Tough Enough 3 was Matt Capitelli.
Mhm.
So I met Matt Capitelli through that. We did help Kenny start a show at my high school because at the time I did an impersonation of The Rock, and I used to come out at my high school as The Rock, cutting
Nice.
promos on whoever we did at homecoming.
Sure.
You rock bottom them, do the whole thing. And I'm still to this day, people in high school sometimes don't know me as Daniel Spencer. They still know me as The Rock. It's pretty funny. But um, but anyway, so doing that kind of stuff. I would help bring a show to our school, a fundraiser kind of show, and then so as time went on, I became kind of in the business or kind of knew of the things around the business, but still not in it, I guess.
Sure.
Um,
You're
we'll,
you're
we'll
you're
fast forward a
carving
little
your
bit.
path. You're learning how to get yourself into it. I think we all kind of
Right.
have those like transitional months or years or whatever that like we kind of figure out where we're gonna fit.
So then around that time, I feel like I'm probably gonna get in, do more things. I meet at that time my I meet someone who ends up becoming my wife. But when I met her,
Mhm.
um, she hated wrestling, so she
Sure.
kind of pulled me away from it a little bit. And you kind of like have a different life or whatever. I still watched it, but I wasn't hardly involved or going to many shows. So I kind of like probably had an opportunity. I could have slowly worked myself to get in at that time, but I didn't.
Mhm.
Um, Years went by, and then Matt Capitelli ended up having the brain tumor the first go around. Shortly after that, he winds up in my church, and I'm
Mhm.
like, "Holy cow!" There's Matt. That's Matt Capitelli, and I haven't seen him in years. Like I know Matt. Like what's going on? And so I walk up to him, and we were talking, and he was like, "Yeah, man, things are still going good there." He was telling me what this future holds or whatever. Um, and so we rekindled that relationship with me and him, and started talking. Kind of got the open door to kind of get back a little, go to a couple shows or whatnot. Um, Still couldn't wanted to do more, to do more. A few years went on, got passed, and then eventually, me and my wife at the time divorced. And at that point, I was like, you know what? I want to do this. I'm going to do this. So I started getting so involved in wrestling as much as possible. Started a podcast.
Yeah.
Um, Started interacting more and more with different people, even with Matt. Then at that point, Matt's tumor came back. And then one of the things in this time frame when I was talking with Matt, also with the other guy, Kenny Bowen, I helped co-host his podcast too as well for a while. So I was like getting involved. Even did some stuff with Vince Russo on his show. So I was getting involved. Like, okay, I'm getting back in the groove of things. Matt always encouraged me. He kept always saying, without telling me directly was like, you don't have to be a wrestler. There's so much stuff you can do in wrestling without wrestling. So I know you're smaller, whatever, as far as, but indie wrestling, you don't, you're the perfect size. But at the
Like
same
you could
time,
be a wrestler, but like you could also be like a manager. You could be an
right.
announcer. You could be
He's like,
anything.
there's so much stuff you can do. Just
Be
get
a
in the ring
camera
with
guy.
me.
Come on. Yeah.
Right. He's like, just get in the ring and let's just do some, we'll just go there. And so I kept telling him, I was like, for a while. And then finally, when the second tumor hit and I was doing the podcast and talking to him, and he was telling me about it was worse and whatever. I said, you know what? I need to find a way. I just need to go. I need to do it. I need to get to training. I just need to train and just do this for Matt.
Yeah,
Right when I had that,
you need to find
yeah.
some way to get involved and into wrestling before like he's not there to be able to enjoy it.
Right. Right when that's happened, right when that I had that epiphany or in my brain, I'm going to do this. I get I have a guest on my podcast to promote a benefit show for a girl in the area, like a little girl
Mhm.
who needed some medical wheelchairs, and so we bring him on to advertise and do everything. So he comes on and jokingly in the conversation like we're having here, I said, well, hey, if you ever need a special guest referee, I'm your man. This literally was a
Well,
joke.
you
He
said
go
that.
right. And he says on the show, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll get you. Come on to the podcast. Oh, okay. I'm thinking it's podcast. We're working. No
Right.
big
Yeah.
deal. Didn't take it seriously. We finished recording. We're talking. He goes, hey man, I'm serious about you coming out. We could use you. You could ref. And I go, oh man, I was just joking. I
I don't
haven't,
know how to ref.
yeah,
That's okay.
that's exactly it. I said, oh, I don't know how to ref. Have you watched wrestling all your life? Yeah. You've been in the ring before? Yeah. You took bumpers too? Yeah, absolutely. You'll be fine. I was like, and I go, well, am I just doing one match? He goes, just come. You'll be fine. So I
What you
go out.
come to find out is that he's carning you super hard, but in a
Oh
good
yeah,
way.
in a good way. It was life changing.
Yeah,
So I go out to Dick's Sporting Goods, buy myself a referee shirt.
sure.
I he tells me make sure you get black. Make sure you have just wear black slacks or Dickies or whatever. Just buy black pants. I was like, well, I have those. I'm good. So
Sure.
and then I remember like day of the show, he goes, oh, by the way, I should tell you, you should get some knee pads. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, trust me, get knee
Yeah.
pads. I go,
For those of
okay.
you refs that are listening, we see this pop up in Zebra Talk a lot. Every once in a while, somebody will get on there and be like, should I wear knee pads? Yes, please, please, please. For the love of whatever, please wear knee
Right.
pads. Save
So
yourself the trouble.
so right away, the very first show, I ran out and I went back to Dick's and I got me some knee pads. And I was like, I go and I go to the show and sure enough, it's like, oh, okay, you're doing this match, this match. I'm like, whoa,
Uh-huh.
I got three matches,
Yeah.
and the third match, the main event was. I wouldn't ref it, but the ref's going to take a bump, and I
And then
come out
you'll
and
come.
slide, do
Yeah,
the
yeah,
one,
yeah.
2, 3 at the end. So, and I'm
So
all
just
like, oh,
throwing you
this is
right
great.
into the deep end.
Right into the deep end. It was so I was like, this is okay, great. It was in Indiana, so I didn't need a license, which in Kentucky you do. So I was like, we didn't have to worry about that. So I get out there, meet some people, and as I do the show, one of the first match I ever had was some goofy, like, I can't even describe it. It was one of those, yeah, I don't even want to talk about it. Let's just put it that way. So it was a terrible match, but all I
Yeah,
did was
I've
really
had
just count
plenty of
one,
those,
2, 3.
brother.
One time, I just kind of 1, 2, 3, and then I come back and then somebody says, "Hey, slow your count down just a little bit. Everything else is fine." It's like, okay, cool. Well, of course, I didn't know. Still didn't know what I was doing. Next match was a tag,
Mhm.
and the tag involved some very 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 what do you call it, flamboyant heels, and then some typical babies, and
Sure.
so I go out there and one of the guys who's now become one of my best friends, he wrestles by the name of JMO, and he goes, look, I just do everything I say. I was like, okay. And sure enough, he literally like made sure I turned around when I needed to turn around, when the heels were cheating, things
Sure.
like that. Like, he walked me through everything. After that, I did of course, the main event, slide in, 1, 2, 3, all that. So everything's done after the show, and I get this, oh man, you got the look. This is your first show ever? It's like, yeah. He goes, you're way better than half of the people in this area.
You know,
He was
you don't
like,
suck. You should come back.
exactly. Well, it was like, we got this other show. Why don't you come to this show? Okay. So I go to that show. Just do one match. All right. Hey, you know what? Why don't you come to this show? Next thing I know, it turns into I'm showing up at a show that has Jimmy Hart on it, and it's big promoted. It's packed out place. I'm like, what is okay? And I get 3 matches on that show, and I work with an IFB, and they're
There you
going,
go.
look, just put it in your ear. There is a hard cam, a little, just put it in your ear, stay this part of the ring. They'll guide you, listen to it. You got to tell the ref that you got to tell them the times. At this time, I never worked giving people times,
I'm
so I had
sure
no
folks can
idea that
figure
was
out what he's talking about, but just in case you're unsure
yeah,
so far, an IFB is a headset that referees wear so that we can communicate with the people in the back. Unfortunately,
right.
the majority of the IFBs that we use on the indies are only a one-way radio, so we can hear what they're saying, but we actually can't talk back. So please
Right.
continue.
Yeah, so I'm sitting there and I'm got this, this thing in my back pocket. First time I've done that, right away I'm hearing I got to give them time cues. So now they're telling me, I've got to work out how to tell them 2 minutes left, 3 minutes, whatever it may be. So thrown right into the wolves to learn that. And luckily, a lot of these people that were running this company was former guys that used to do production and stuff with OVW.
Sure.
So they knew the aspect of TV pretty well. So they're teaching this to these young kids. And these were all like a lot of these kids were young training. This is like through shows that they would get to do once a quarter, I think it was, after go through their training. So it was pretty cool. And they would bring in big stars to kind of bring in the people, but then you would see these new guys. And so, come to find out, they were starting to do like weekly TV, even though it was just going to be taped and put on YouTube or whatever, but it was still weekly shows they were going to do. And then I got the invite, hey, come on out, do these shows. And absolutely. So then I kept coming and learning more about that aspect of it. And that went on for a few months. And then I end up, at this point, had friends and stuff at OVW and having them on my podcast, talking, promoting their stuff, talking about me refereeing. They would see me make my post, all that kind of thing. And then next thing I know, I get a call for one of them going, hey, we need another referee at OVW. We're looking for 1 or 2 refs. Would you be willing to? You got to get your license, blah blah blah. But would you be willing to come in? And I was like, well, sure. It goes, well, now there's nothing promised. You might not work. You might just work all the dark matches for a while, whatever. But
Sure.
we just need
But I mean,
someone to
that's how
help
we
her.
earn our place, right? Yeah.
Right. So I show up. Al just bought the company
Hmm.
from Danny Davis. So
Hmm.
Al was kind of moving things out and changing things around. I show up there and kind of introduce myself to some of the other people that don't know me. And then apparently word got passed along that that how well I've done or how, as far as
You've
refereeing.
got
Oh yeah, he's a
IFB
good
training, you
yeah, get camera training, know this stuff. Of course, it's still a different mindset because once you get there, it's bigger cameras, bigger lights, bigger ring, bigger stage.
sure.
But get there, and then it took a while for some reason to get my license, so I didn't start with them right away. But I was there at the show, still going, still showing I was there. And then my first show was actually a big special they did, and because Impact was actually close by in Nashville doing their homecoming pay-per-view and some TV. So some of our people were there, and which included a referee or two. So therefore, I literally like it was my opportunity to now work I work here or work at OVW. So kind of just worked out when I did. I was impressed with what I did in the match because it was a big angle, a big spot that I had to do, and I had the timing. I had to like turn my head at the right time. I had to because there was a spot where I reversed the decision, and I had to
Sure.
do it in like a wait, made the crowd like wait for it, and then they popped when I did it in the whole 9 yards, and I was like,
Your
you
timing's
like
good. Your
timing was
positioning's
good.
good. Yeah.
You sewed like if it wasn't for you doing what you did, the crowd wouldn't have got wouldn't have got up when they did. They wouldn't have put it over as much as they did. Like you were more important than they were in that moment, and which is as refs we don't get to do that. That's not our
Yeah.
job. Our
Those
job is to put them
opportunities don't
over.
really come every day. So, like, when
Right.
you have an opportunity to do that where you're supposed to do that, you got to really make sure that you hit it out of the park, which seems like you did.
Yeah. So then that opened up the door to now because I was a part of the OVW staff and staff and talent team. Now I was able to come to training with Al Snow and all that kind of stuff. So then it opened the door to just more and more. more and more time in the ring, more and more reps, if you want to call it, just getting in there, learning everything I can. Going, one of the things Al does is TV review. He'll you go to class, you're reviewing TV from the previous week,
Yeah.
you're watching the TV, he's telling you everything that you did wrong, everything you did right, explaining why you could do it this way or that way, the whole 9 yards. And it's like, just wow. And then I sit in gorilla, or go, however you want to call it, in the position right before, watching on camera all the matches that I'm not in, and just listening to Al critique or Al coach or whatever on those matches, or the agent of the match, and just taking that in. So I just took every opportunity I had to learn as much as possible, because to me, I was like, I made it to OVW, which was cool to think, a kid that grew up loving that company and loving that area, loving wrestling. Now
Sure.
I'm a part of something that John Cena, Brock Lesnar, CM Punk, The Miz, all these guys are now been a part of. Referee side, you want to, we can go John Cone, we can, Mike Posey, even at one time. We could
Yeah.
start naming, referees has been a part of that too. And I'm like, this is, wow, that's a Chris Sharp package, who's now, over in UK, NXT UK. So all these guys have this history of this business
It's a
in this,
lineage that like that you're on the right track once you get to be a
yeah.
part of that situation. Yeah.
And I said, even if I this is all I do, it's cool, but I'm not gonna stop there. And then next thing you know, opportunities open up for me to do extra work for WWE, and then to do some Impact shows. When Impact came in and did some stuff in the local area, that's when I first got to meet Bravo and those guys. And I got the Al put me, because I was doing the assignments at the time. Al put me in the main event, which was Tony Gunn versus Sammy Callahan. And it was like a takeover, OVE versus OVW kind of big deal. And I got to be part of that main event. And I was like, nope, you're going to do it. And that was kind of the first time that Impact saw what I could do. And at the time, I was not ready for nothing like that. And that's Bravo even would say, keep working, keep doing this. I started building rapport with him, and fix the things that I needed to fix. And then Al was teaching me things I needed to, and just kept working, kept
And
training,
luckily,
kept
it's led
learning.
to you getting the opportunities that you've gotten. It seems like you were
Yeah.
on just kind of like the right track, following all the right advice and just walking through the right doors at the right time. Which more often than not is kind of how people's careers end up going in pro wrestling,
Yeah.
especially in the referee position.
Oh,
This has been great. We're actually like winded down out of time. We might even
yeah.
need to do like a part two with you because we're only about
Yeah.
halfway up to Impact, but we got about 5 minutes left. I like to give everybody 5 minutes at the end of their 60 to uh, put over anything that it is that you would like people to know about. We would like to hear your social media handles, any shows
Yeah.
that you feel like they want to check out, particularly if there's any wrestlers that you think people maybe don't know about yet that like you want them to take a chance to like, look them up and give them a look. Anything that you want to get over, take this time to get it over. Go right ahead.
Absolutely. So I do have a podcast, as I talked about, that's actually helped push me in this direction. And it's Ringside Podcasters. If it's the video, this is video, right?
Look at
This is a
that.
video.
This
There you
is
go.
video,
Rings.
brother.
Yeah. So you can follow. Well, I didn't know if it was going to air video. I should ask that. But yeah, at Ringside Podcast. So there's all that on everywhere. And then of course my own personal social media is at Daniel Spencer. Very simple. It's everywhere except for, I think I have a like page on Facebook, which is Ref or Real Daniel Spencer, something like that. But if you
Sure.
referee Daniel Spencer, you search it, you'll find me. And the other, and then of course, as far as I like that idea about wrestlers. There's a few
Thanks.
guys out there
I
that
really try to take the opportunity to like get people over a little bit. If people haven't noticed yet, I'm
yeah,
always wearing a different like indie guy shirt. I'm rocking Steven Tresario today. Like, I try to really use this as an opportunity that like people are going to look at this that maybe not necessarily know who all the people that we know are yet.
yeah.
And like, yeah, but go ahead.
I like that. So, like, well, first of all, I name dropped him earlier. Tony Gunn.
Hmm.
Tony Gunn did some gut check stuff last year. Tony Gunn's, he's a guy that, just man, he's so good. And if you haven't checked out anything Tony's done, I know he was in the dirt sheets. He didn't even mean to be when the whole Billy Gunn versus Tony Gunn thing, and it wasn't
Sure.
really was really a thing. It literally was just Billy said, "Hey, this is trademarked," and Tony was like, "Okay, all right, cool,"
Cool.
and that's all it was. And it somehow got spun into something that wasn't. But anyways,
Sounds like wrestling.
um, yeah. But yeah, Tony Gunn, and then there's another guy, Luscious Lawrence.
Hmm.
Uh, I mean, that I'm talking good old fashioned heat he brings, and his character is just phenomenal. I love what he does, and definitely check him out. Look him up. He's just is if you bring him to your if you know somebody you can talk to the bookers, bring him into your show. He'll definitely get some heat and
Knows how
get
to
that
rile
baby
up a
face.
crowd.
Yes, and get that baby over, which is without heat, without a good heel, you can't get a baby over. So, anyways, and then I guess the other person I would throw out there would be, well, I mean, you kind of know him already, Jesse Goddard's. I mean, he's kind of been,
Sure.
but he's kind of getting revamped back again. He's the OVW national champion. So yeah, he's getting back in the swing of things, and from big, he was on Big Brother. He was at Impact years ago. So
Right.
those are
Mr.
guys right there.
Spectacular, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, and then the only person I'd say that's one of the best persons you could have at your or you could work with if you ever bring him out, and I know Odie, I know you've done stuff with him.
Mhm.
And although he's not somebody that really needs to be promoted, but I'm promoting him this way is Sin Bodhi.
Oh
Sin
yeah,
Bodhi
absolutely.
is just
Like,
amazing. What
he
a good
doesn't need to get
brother.
put over, but like, why wouldn't you put him over? For those of you who don't
Right.
know him as Sin Bodhi Kizarny from WWE fame, a
Yeah.
few years back, one of the greatest minds in professional wrestling. Excellent
Such
teacher and coach, and obviously his matches are fantastic. But like, he just exudes knowledge and information everywhere that he goes. Please continue.
such a good brother. And if you're not, you can send me a question or send Odie if you're not a part of this Snake Pit
Yeah,
group, which we love Zebra Talk, but Snake Pit is another group too as well that you can learn just as much from Sin. Um, Join that. You have to answer a few questions to like get in, but it's worth it and get in that. And man, there's people that pop in. Dr. Tom Pritchard will pop in. You'll have
you get
sometimes
Sin himself
Gangrel.
like going live
Yeah,
almost
Sin goes
daily. Like,
daily. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Al Snow has popped in. It was during COVID, just like what you were doing with Zebra Talk. They were doing it for the wrestler side and referee side, so it was really
Yeah.
cool. So, but Sin will still pop in live, and he'll do he'll go on shows and do live Broadways and training and like 60-minute Broadway matches with a wrestler, and he'll like
Mhm.
air it live and let you see the whole thing, and it's just so amazing. So yes,
Invaluable amount of information that you really
yeah.
just to be able to have access to that is just one of the bigger benefits of like living in the social media age right now.
One of the things I do want to get over, it's not anything specifically as a person, but it is that if you're a referee or worker, period, if you're a wrestler listening to this, here's what if you have the ability to do this, please, I encourage you to do it. Not only do you, do you take feedback and listen and change up what you need to change up and get better, but if you have the ability to watch yourself, don't
Yeah.
just have somebody else watch it and give you and send you back and give
Watch
you
your own
pointers.
footage. Yeah,
Watch
absolutely.
your own footage. That's one of the things that I did. There would be times when I would watch the match back before going to the T review, already had the notes that Al Snow already said this needs to be changed. Just yep, yep, yep.
Sure.
And who's a better critic than anyone than me? Me. I'm no one's more of a critic of myself than myself.
Sure.
So I'm going to probably really stick hard on certain things than say, where a guy might be wanting to give me some advice, but not wanting to hurt my feelings, but give me enough. No,
Sure.
I'm going to be like, I look like crap when I did
Yeah.
that. This is terrible. What was I thinking? Boom, and change it up. And I'm the big and that's the cool thing about my career is that so far most of my work, not all of it, obviously because of indie
Between
shows and
OVW and Impact and
yeah,
everything else has
I
been
have
taped.
video. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been taped, so you can go back and watch. And I encourage you go back and
You
watch
can
the
watch your
OVW.
progression from like the beginning to the end. Yeah. Or not
Yeah,
end, but where you are now.
if you have the Impact Plus app, which $7.99, first 30 days is free, so might as well. But go watch the OVW Clash of the Bluegrass, OVW Impact Wrestling from March of 19, I think is when it was. Go watch that. Watch I did two. I think I did two matches there. I have to look back. I did Brian Cage and Justin Smooth, and then the main event, Tony Gunn and Sami Callihan. Watch that, and then go watch Explosion or Impact from this week or Hard to Kill, Bound for Glory,
See
whatever,
the
something in the
difference,
last
see
year,
the
and
improvement.
just
Yeah.
see the improvement of what has happened over that time frame. And just even if you go back and watch April's, TV of
Yeah, I mean,
Impact
I'm sure
compared to
you've learned
today.
so much being there with Toll and with Bravo, and now with obviously Brian, is going to make you even that much better.
Yeah, and not to mention D'Lo and guys in the
Tommy,
Gail Kim and
talking to
Tommy and
Jimmy. Yeah,
Jimmy,
yeah,
and it's just it's amazing of where I can see my own progression, but I encourage you all to do that. Watch yourself, go back and watch it, get see if you can figure out your own mistakes on your own. Have someone still look at it that's a credible, that's been there, done that, not the guy that's right there on your same level. Someone that's been around longer, has done more experience. Get them to give you feedback as well, and then put it to work. Change, practice, and get in there, get in the ring. You'll never. I mean, even in the WWE level, those guys, when they're going over stuff, I still see Rudy Charles or Dan. He would get in there and he would roll around doing stuff. I still seen Rod do the stuff,
yeah, absolutely.
and same thing we do at Impact. We still get in there and do stuff, even though we're on TV, so to speak. And you're
You
never
never stop learning. Charles
LeBron
Robinson
James
loves to
still,
talk
yeah,
about it. Yeah, you
yeah,
never stop
who I
learning. If
think
you
is the
stop learning, you're dying.
but I think Charles Robinson to me is the goat. So
Sure.
other than or maybe Earl would be the only one I could put over him. But that's it, man. Just keep learning, um, keep practicing. LeBron James practices every day, and he's supposedly the greatest player of all time, right? So,
Yeah.
he doesn't stop practicing and stop learning. So that's the way you always should do it.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate having you on the podcast. We appreciate all the hard work that you're doing with Impact and, trying to spread your knowledge to the rest of the world through Ringside Podcasts or coming on here. It's been a pleasure to have you as a part of Zebra Talk. Thank you for repping the shirt. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, yeah. There it
If
is.
you folks would like to support the Zebra Talk Fund, you can go to prowrestlingtees.com/Zebra Talk. We've got shirts, we've got sweaters, hats. I just released the mid card pins yesterday. We've got tracksuits that are available. There's all kinds of cool stuff, and it all goes directly into the Zebra Talk Fund, which once a month will help a referee travel to a place that they've never been before that they couldn't potentially afford before that. If you would like to be on the podcast and you're a referee yourself, please feel free to email me at zebratalk123@gmail.com. If you are not in Zebra Talk and you're a referee, why not? Find me on any of the social medias. On Instagram and Twitter, I'm Odie1Canody. On Facebook, it's Robert Odie Brown. And then obviously we have the Zebra Talk socials as well, which is just Zebra Talk 123. Thank you again so much for being on here. And I look forward to getting to talk to you again in the future. And hopefully we'll actually get to meet each other one of these days and maybe even work on a show together.
Absolutely, would love that. Absolutely, anytime, and yeah, we definitely have to meet up sometime soon and work a show for sure.
Hopefully, if this whole like WrestleMania weekend actually pans out this year.
Maybe we'll get our good pal Dewey Larson to bring us both out to Denver, and we'll
There
do
you
a
go.
we'll do,
That could
we'll
be
do a show.
fun.
I'll put Dewey on. I'm gonna call Dewey in a little bit, put him on the spot. Hey, Odie,
How you
you gotta bring
doing,
me an Odie
brother?
out.
There you
Yeah.
go. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right.